Hey everyone. It is May 6th, 2026. We are talking about South March BESS again. Obviously, if you follow our channel, this is all about South March BESS and part of the greater issue in Ontario around the ISO's energy procurement issues, specifically around this site that is currently before the courts for judicial review based on lack of public consultation with the City of Ottawa. So City of Ottawa, Brookfield, Evolugen, and I believe Stantec are named in the litigation and the review. So this project has not been fully approved. However, City of Ottawa and Brookfield are trying to ram this through as quick as it can, it seems. But that's just personal opinion. But we're going to look at some facts here to kind of see how a lot of things are being missed. So today's topic is going to be around the monitoring of these systems. So Evolugen, Brookfield, whoever we want to call them today, they go by different names all the time. So it was going mostly by Evolugen at the beginning of this, their marketing campaigns. And then once they realized, I guess, that a lot of people would question because they actually haven't done any battery energy storage facilities. There seems to be a switch to now they're mostly just advertising that it's Brookfield and not Evolugen. But again, that's just like a finding that we've noticed. So this is actually a poster. Sorry, I couldn't find a clearer one. I know we have one in the archives, but this is just the one that I found quickly. So this is one of the posters that they used at the open house. It was around fire safety and how these systems, it says right here where it's circled, sensors on each battery cell will be monitored 24/7 by top engineers at the local network operations center. So that's an interesting piece, so hold that. But then also, this is the poster that they used the Ottawa Fire Services logo and stated that Ottawa Fire about their role in this and everything, and made it sound that Ottawa Fire Services was actually actively involved in this site, when at this point Ottawa Fire Services did not give permission to use their emblem. They did not advertise that they were on this site at this point, any of this file. And so Evolugen, Brookfield, again, as per usual, they say sorry. They ask for forgiveness after the fact of making the mistake. And then we see them kind of, this is also a trend that we see is, they do this thing, they say sorry, and then, the next problems come up. And again, they say sorry and all that. But nothing's really kind of done about it. So keep this sentence in mind about the sensors being monitored by top engineers. So recently, a follower came across a Brookfield Renewable US job posting, Gatineau, Quebec. So that's where these systems will be operating from. So it's interesting because they always say Brookfield Renewable is Canadian. They tout that they are a Canadian company. They try to really stay away from the US advertisement that they could be associated with the US, especially around whenever Trump was in and there was like the energy selling energy to the US and very like the drive of, choose Canadian products. Sorry guys, it's early in the morning. And so if we go through here about the job, so up here, where did it go here? Okay, so about the job. So reporting to the manager, they'll monitor, control real-time operations of Brookfield's hydroelectric, wind power, solar panel, and connected facilities to ensure their safe and reliable operation on a 24/7 rotating shift basis. So this is also, I'm assuming, and again, I'm assuming connected facilities might be best, but this would be a monitoring position. It is considered, I believe it said on the post somewhere that it was entry level. So this is kind of what we're thinking will be, who will be monitoring these things, these battery energy storage facilities. So again, this is the qualification, so diploma of college studies or vocational studies diploma, knowledge in some of these areas, and then the typical need to use Microsoft and such. So over here, about the company, it's interesting that Brookfield Renewable US is actually advertising for this position in Gatineau, because again, they're stating that it's all Canadian. Brookfield Renewable is a Canadian subsidy, and Evolugen is Canadian. It's out of Gatineau and everything. And so this is actually Brookfield Renewable US, based out of New York City. So again, really interesting. I'm trying to find, maybe it will, okay. Let's see, did it say? Maybe it was directly on LinkedIn. You could see that it was an entry position. Anyways, with that, so entry-level position, really don't need a lot of experience to be doing this apparently, yet their signage states 24/7 top engineers at the local Network Operations Center, NOC, which is in Gatineau. And then we go to this piece. So earlier last year, June 11th, this is when the MSR, the Municipal Support Resolution, passed council. We noticed that there was an engineer there that had delegated. His name was Dr. Stephen Ramsey, and he was an engineer out in British Columbia. He did have licensing in Ontario. However, when we were doing a background check on this guy, he was actually, his license was pulled in British Columbia for professional misconduct. And this actually was around falsifying reports for permitting. So quite concerning when a engineer falsifies any report. And so this kind of, you could imagine that this kind of tells a little bit about the character of this person, right? So we're going to go down here, and it'll be Evolugen's response. That's concerning. So his involvement has been limited to that scope and was not responsible for completing any site-specific assessments on Brookfield's behalf. The assessment work for which Dr. Ramsey has received professional discipline in is entirely unrelated to the work he has done for Brookfield. So they admitted that he has done work for Brookfield. He was at this MSR advocating for this project. We know that professional misconduct is typically around, you know, the personality and stuff, right? Falsifying reports, it doesn't have to be around any specific topic. The fact that this engineer falsified reports for permitting is concerning. And the company, Brookfield, this was actually the Evolugen spokesperson talking, but Evolugen acknowledged that they do know about his professional discipline. And so they still chose to allow him to work for Brookfield, and do any scope of work for Brookfield, which is really concerning, because you can't tell me that there's no other engineer in Ontario or wherever that could do some of this work. You had to pick the engineer that falsified reports and is now banned from a regulatory college elsewhere in the country. So I will also do another video on this just to keep things a little bit shorter, because the City of Ottawa also has some deficits in tracking their professionals as well, which is concerning. But this is kind of what I wanted to do today, was who's actually going to be monitoring these battery energy storage systems. So we have the open house and the, I'm going to stop sharing here. We have the, there we go. So we have the open house and Evolugen stating that they're going to be top engineers looking after these sensors 24/7 at the local network operations center in Gatineau. However, then we had the job posting of Brookfield Renewables US looking at these monitoring technicians in Gatineau, which is the local network operations center, looking after these systems 24/7. So are those two linked? I don't know. Evolugen, Brookfield, you want to answer? Again, they don't answer inquiries, so we're more than welcome to hear their input. And then we have, you know, even if they are engineers that are monitoring these systems, what's their track record going to be? Right? We already have Evolugen, Brookfield, whoever, stating that they acknowledge that there is an engineer that had professional misconduct working on their projects, and the misconduct was around more characteristic and ethical pieces, but they still allowed them to work on this project, even though it wasn't specifically around that area that he was caught in. It was more around characteristic and ethical pieces. So who's going to be working on this? I don't know. That's for you to decide, but we're just bringing awareness to this project, and we have lots of unanswered questions that we struggle to get answers to. And so please, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please post them in the comments below. Thanks, guys. See you later.